Hi, my name is Fed Pride. I was Reed Silverne, but the name of the show is Fed Pride. And the reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker and proud of it. And it's just that makes this show what it is, because I am here on Friday, and you're probably going to watch this on Sunday or possibly Tuesday on the digital channel. And this is live to tape. So if I say I am Fed Pride instead of I am Reed Silverne, that's exactly what you see. And it happened, and I did, and proof beyond positive that this show is as amateurish as I want it to be, and I'm willing to let it. First, a spin of the world on my beautiful Google Earth, and I'm going to spin the world here, and we're going to bring America back right up here over my shoulder. And the reason is because we have right now oil that's almost at $95. Today is Friday, and we just had a disastrous day in the market, a disastrous week. The market's gone up, the market's gone down, and usually I don't talk about the stock market because it changes. By the time I actually talk to you, whatever I'm saying is completely obsolete. But today is a little different because this last week and over the last 3 weeks, the crude price of oil has gone up tremendously. And I pointed out a few weeks ago that the margin between the crude price of oil and the pump was as low as 50 cents. At that point, the price of oil was over 80. It was about 85, which is $2, and you could go out there and get a gallon of gas for $2.59 and a half. That was 60 cents. Then it went up a little bit farther, went into the 90s at the equivalent price of $2.10, and you could go in there and at $2.65 you could get a gallon of gas. So that the margin was as low as 55 cents. And last May, when the crude price of oil was about 65, which represents about $1.75, the price at the pump was at $3.25, which is a $1.50 margin. So my theory, and I still hold by it, is that the oil companies, the oil industry, including the distribution industry, what we now call, because gasoline is a loss leader, the corner store industry, or the Quickie Mart industry, because that's where the gas stations make their profit. Basically, the margin went all the way down to 50 cents. Now that margin is going up. The crude price has gone up to 95. One day it topped out at over 97. I think it might have hit 98. Didn't hit 100, but the equivalent, inflation-adjusted, highest price in history is $101.80. Looks like we're getting there. But even at, you have to take into account, for every $10 of the price of oil, you're talking about $4.10 value, or $4.20 value per gallon, or 42 cents. And basically what we have is at $95, you are looking at about $2.15 a gallon. And when it tops out to that, now the price of gas, at least the gas stations I've been looking at, are close to $2.85, and we're looking at a 70-cent margin. So the margin's actually been going up, although it's been kept as low as possible. Why is this important? Because some of the analysts say, and I don't have the article in front of me, but I read it recently, that in fact you can expect to see the price at the pump at about $3.20 by Christmas. Some analysts say up to $3.50. And springtime is when the price of gas historically goes up. Usually there's a drop in the fall, and then it goes back up in the spring. However, this drop in the fall, which we were experiencing before when it went down to $2.50, is actually gone up. So we're close to we're at $2.85 here in Tucson, but it's higher in the rest of the country. We're very, very close to $3 gas already. The election season really starts almost immediately after Christmas and New Year. So if this is high, then the normal cycle, which is to kick up the price to the nth degree, the highest gasoline price for America was last May. And that was that crisis where it was $3.75 in California and $3.25 to $3.50 in the rest of the country. If that happens during the height of the primary election season, I am telling you, in my opinion, the oil industry is going to suffer. And they're going to suffer because people are going to want to know why. People are going to want to know why they are being gouged. And people are going to want to know why this government and this country doesn't do something about it. And they should, because the technology is there, not to completely replace oil, but to reduce imports by 50 to 70%. Basically, they just opened up the first of the pine chip to synth gas plant just opened up. That'll be able to produce 2 million gallons, I'm sorry, of ethanol a year, which isn't very much when you look at it. But if you took all the biomass, in other words, all the plant garbage, all of the lawn waste, all of the about 30 to 40% of a tree, when it's turned into boards, all of the bark and all that other stuff is basically turned into pulp, which is sometimes sold to paper, but sometimes not even good for that, basically thrown into landfills. And that's true in Georgia. In Georgia, there's so much pulp that using the system in this particular new technology, they'd be able to produce 46,000 barrels a day for every day for an entire year. 2 billion gallons of ethanol. So that's enough alone to, if every single amount of biomass in the country was turned into natural gas, ethanol, or whatever. And the system, which basically takes the wood chips and turns it into hydrogen and carbon monoxide gas, and then mixes it to form chemicals, basically hydrocarbons. That particular gas, carbon monoxide is a C and an O, and of course hydrogen gas is an H. Natural gas is CH4. And that's basically the building block of just about any hydrocarbon. So you can make ethanol from it, you can make natural gas from it, you can make gasoline from it, you can make diesel fuel, anything you want. And that is enough. There's enough out there in the United States. I'm going to just put my cursor over the United States to produce 3 million barrels a day of gasoline, ethanol, or whatever. Is that going to be done? I don't think so. I don't think the oil companies would tolerate that kind of competition, but it will be done to some extent. Basically, and I'm not going to be kidding around here, the use of oil, crude oil in the United States, has grown to 21 million barrels a day. And I love the article that I read. It said, from the early 70s to the present, even in America, there's been a growth of demand for crude oil from 17 to 21 million. Well, in fact, in 1979, that 17 had already grown to 19.9. So basically, in all the years, in 21 plus 7, 28 years, the use of crude oil, the actual demand for crude oil in the United States has only grown 1 million barrels a day. That's 5% over a period of 28 years. So figure it out. It's like 0.1% a year. It's really minuscule. And that can be with, all we need to do is convert with an increase of the average mileage, the CAFE standard, from 25 miles a gallon to 35 miles a gallon, that would drop at 2 million barrels a day right there, just for America. Then you can imagine, again, we have deep oil over here, and we have enough to already proven. In other words, the first well has reached the pocket of oil to produce 2 million barrels extra a day that we're not producing right now for 30 years. Mexico found a deep oil field enough to produce 1 million barrels a day for 40 years. So there's plenty of oil. And then, of course, there's the tar sands up in Canada, which has gone from 0 to 2 million barrels a day and is about to go up to 3 million barrels a day. It's actually 4, but Canada itself uses some. But there's 2 million barrels a day that's exported to the United States. That can go up to 3 million. So basically, there's a glut of oil, at least in North America, right around the corner, if we have the political will to do it. And once we have an election, when the price of gas at the pump is $3.50 or $4 a gallon, the oil companies are going to have to answer some questions, because if only one politician demagogues this thing, they've had it. I mean, that's basically it. See, American people are just sick and tired of having our economy ruined by a negative trade deficit, by importing 11 million barrels a day, or actually 15 million barrels a day, but 4 million come from NAFTA, Canada and Mexico. So importing 15 million barrels a day, and out of our $1 trillion trade deficit, that's at least a third. So if we can get rid of these imports, we can drop our trade deficit by a third, strengthen our dollar, improve our economy, and boom, we're back in business. So right now, and the technology is there. Not only that, there's hybrids, there's plug-in hybrids. The electricity system in this country is almost exclusively uses domestic energy sources. Coal over here, over there, and over here. Natural gas from the Midwest, or nuclear, which of course produces its own fuel, but it's dangerous. Basically, that is where we get our electricity. We only pretty much use imported oil, crude oil, for the purpose of transportation. About half of it goes to aviation and diesel fuel, and the other half goes to gasoline. And when I say half and half, it's not really, because a certain amount, about 1 million barrels, 1 to 2 million barrels a day out of the 21, go to petrochemicals and end up becoming plastic bags and all the garbage that is going to ruin our landscape for the next 100,000 years. So if some alien archaeologist comes to America in 100,000 years, all this garbage that we make out of crude oil that we import from the Middle East is basically still there. Every garbage bag with every milk carton and so on and so forth, or milk bottle, plastic milk bottle. So that's another waste, and that can be improved as well. So there's plenty of technology out there. All we need is a president or a presidential candidate to basically get up in front of the American people and say, I am sick and tired of that. We're not going to take it anymore, to quote the movie Network. And on top of that, we got to the moon in 10 years. We will reduce oil imports, limited to NAFTA, limited only to Canada and Mexico. And North America will be energy independent in 10 years. It can be done. It's not that big a deal. It doesn't even take that much infrastructure. All we need to do is basically replace the internal combustion engine with plug-in hybrids. First plug-in hybrids coming on the scene, 2009, Chevy Volt. So we can even say it's an American company, even though the next round of technology is going to be developed by GM, which owns Chevy in China. And that's basically what it's going to be. Now, I've been screaming and crying, and a lot of people have said, you know, Reed, this whole thing about boycotting CITGO, that is your imagination. That is garbage. This whole thing about the government of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez owning an oil company that has hundreds and hundreds of gas stations all around America, it couldn't be. It's impossible. And here I am going to go to the other camera, and what this is a ad in the New York Times, a full-page ad produced by our friend Hugo Chavez. And what it says here, the embassy, in fact, I'm going to go pull out a little bit so people can see what the whole thing is. And it says, the embassy of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is proud to welcome the Simon Bolivar Youth Orchestra of Venezuela of the United States. For 32 years, the orchestra has brought culture and opportunity to 240,000 of our nation's children, and I assume he means Venezuela's children. And it's presented by Carnegie Hall. And then over here on the bottom, I'm going to try to zoom in, if I can successfully do it. See if I can. And what this says is, I have to zoom out a little bit because I'm cutting it off. I don't know if you can read it. Let me get the title off. But if you can, I'll read it to you. And basically what it says, CITGO Petroleum Corporation. This is on an ad in the New York Times, a subsidiary of Petróleos de Venezuela S.A., PDVSA. The National Oil Company of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is proud to welcome the Simon Bolivar Youth Orchestra to the United States. And here is the symbol of CITGO. Here in Tucson, you'll probably only see it in front of a couple of 7-Elevens that haven't taken it down. Supposedly, the 7-Eleven Corporation won't do business with them anymore, but I passed at least one that still has a CITGO sign above the gas station. So what does this mean? Well, this means that our enemy, our blood enemy, a guy who is buying, in fact, I'm going to put Venezuela up right here. There it is. A guy who is buying submarines to fight our Navy, fighter planes to fight our Air Force, and who considers our system to be evil and our president to be the devil, owns an oil company that does business right here in the United States, and actually is probably responsible for importing most of the 1.4 million barrels a day that's supplying money right into the pocket of Hugo Chavez. Now, Hugo Chavez, and I've had shows about this, basically he's the dictator of Venezuela. He was democratically elected back in the 90s. The minute he was elected, he immediately canceled out the Constitution, shut down the Congress, and had a referendum to replace the Congress with a National Assembly to rewrite the Constitution. He did this twice. He got himself reelected. He's taken over all the media just about a year ago, and I did a couple shows on this. He took the last of the independent media, the station that produced more soap operas, Spanish soap operas, novellas, than any other, was taken off the air. Their license was revoked, that's how he put it, and taken over by the government. The other independent, which was much smaller, it was Global Vision or Globo Vision, they were also taken over by the government and taken off the air. There were riots in Venezuela that are kind of called snidely the soap opera riots, where the middle-class people of Venezuela actually rioted over their soap operas. They didn't seem to care that a guy who set up united or forced all the left-wing parties into his, basically has taken over the army, taken over the oil industry, taken over the mining industry, blacklisted all of his opponents, took over the army, and so on and so forth. that he controls all this. But boy, when he shut down the soap operas, that was too much for the people of Venezuela. Needless to say, with his militias, and he has incredible subsidies. He subsidizes gas to the point of, I think it's 3/4 of the cost that is the United States. And he's taken his excess because the price, he is the one who has said and predicted about 6 months ago we would have $100 barrel oil, and we are there, or we're almost there. And then he, even after he got reelected the second time, has been in power for 12 years, he then announced that he was going to change the Constitution again so that they would have infinite re-election. Previously, they had term limits of 2. You could be dictator or el presidente for 12 years. Then you had to step down and appoint somebody else. Basically, it's a one-party state. There is still an opposition. But a very, very interesting thing happened. There's some opposition within the army because he is basically putting his party loyalists into the army just the way the old Soviets did, where you had the general, and next to him was a political officer who told him what to do, who was the guy who was the real boss. Venezuela has a long history of a military that goes all the way back to Simon Bolivar, that he has named his regime after, the Bolivarian Republic. And it has a long history of independence, and independence from political parties. So a lot of the military officers are really getting fed up with him. And the one thing that he did do in the 2 constitutions that he forced through, each one gave him more and more power, and this next one, in fact, even the last one, enabled him as El Presidente to rule completely by decree, to declare a state of emergency, to take over the economy, and basically arrest whoever he wants and do whatever he wants. Well, very, very interestingly, a general named General Baduel broke with Chavez. He was the secretary or the minister of defense of the Chavista regime, of Chavez's party, basically, ran the military. He's the guy who stopped the coup in 2002. He's responsible personally for keeping Chavez in power from 2002 on to the present. So he's the guy who did it. He's kind of a legend among the pro-Chavez people. And he came out and held a press conference day before yesterday and said publicly that Chavez was declaring a dictatorship, that this new constitution was completely unnecessary, and that Venezuela has never tolerated a president for life in its entire history, and that he is against it. Why is that important? That's important because he has influence within the military, and even more interestingly, within Chavez's own party. Basically, he was idolized until yesterday, or the day before yesterday, as the guy who actually overthrew the coup that lasted about 24 hours in 2002 and kept Chavez in power. I'm going to go to this picture over here, and as you can see, these are students that heard Baduel's speech and demonstrated. And these demonstrations appear to be spreading around all of Venezuela. And as you can see, there's a gun being pushed around by a masked man around a student over here, and they're about to shoot somebody. There were 8 wounded in that particular attack. Basically, these are Chavista militiamen with masks on, and that's ironic because, you know, Chavista claims that everybody, especially all the poor of Caracas, support him and have always supported him. It's on the coast of Venezuela, and that they love him and so on and so forth. And he's been quite embarrassed by these student revolts. Basically, there's a referendum that's going to be going on the 2nd of December, Bye.